So guys, so I've had this ring soaking in this epoxy ring soaking in acetone for about 5, maybe closer to 7 minutes. We're gonna check it out here. As you can see, it's still intact. I mean, I'm sure that the resin has damage to it. You know, it's probably weakened. Just to kind of show people that are unsure about resin, you know, a resin ring, how durable it is. As you can see, it's taken a little bit of damage. What I've also done is I took it out of the acetone twice and I lit it on fire just to get it hot, and then dropped it in the acetone to make it eat away or turn the epoxy into a gummy texture quicker. But this is what it does to resin. If this were super glue, or what people call CA glue, they're the exact same thing, it would have dissolved. It might have taken a little while to dissolve depending on how long it's been cured for, but from my experience, super glue dissolves almost immediately. The two harshest chemicals I found, the harshest chemicals on epoxy, are going to be gasoline. It eats through it like nothing. It takes a while for it to do it, but it dissolves it. I know that because I put some on a gas tank on my snowblower to try to fix a crack, and the next day the epoxy was gone. There wasn't any of it left. And then bleach. Bleach doesn't really dissolve it. It just kind of slowly degrades at it and breaks it down. But this is kind of why I choose epoxy. Now, some people will put their inlay material down or their pigment with super glue, which I think is fine, and then they cover over that with epoxy. So that's essentially the same thing. It's a little easier to do it that way, because then you're not waiting, 24 hours for your epoxy to cure. You can use accelerator, just give it 2-3 hours for that super glue to harden up. I don't use super glue at all. It's always a mess for me, and I don't like it. With epoxy, I have really great results. It's a bit tricky, if you're using a lathe, it's gonna probably get everywhere. I don't use a lathe. I just put it on my Jura microblock and place everything by hand. And then I don't use sandpaper either. I do use sandpaper, but to get the bulk of the material away, I'll use a file. And I try to keep everything below the edges of the channel here, so that way my file isn't being worn out. Then I'll go to polishing with sandpaper, and then so for my inlays, I don't actually buff them with a buff. I just use 6000 grit polish paper and then a polish cloth. From my experience, if you're going to use polish compound on epoxy resin, it's going to dull it, and it might even gum it up and turn it black. It just does not work well. It's too rough of a material and too soft of a material. So for the inlay, like I said, I just use 6K, and then the edges here I'll actually use a buff on, which is just one of these guys. But today what I'm going to do is continue soaking this and pick out the inlay, and I'm thinking I want to do a Bella Opal. Not sure what kind yet. I mean, I have a few options, not that many. Maybe a blue or this green down here. This is turquoise. I mean, it's no offense to the supplier I bought it from, but this is horrible grade turquoise, and $7 a gram is terrible. All these came from the same person. If you bought them from them, you'll probably know who it is. I don't really want to throw them under the bus, but their turquoise is just, it's absolutely terrible. Their opals, though, pretty consistent. I like them. They got a lot of options. One thing with the Bella Opals I don't like is the different sellers put their, like, everybody puts their own name on the colors, and it makes it a little challenging finding identical colors from different sellers. Anyways, guys, hope you have a good day. God bless you.